Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome to the 14 pillars, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam for everyone, here in Imam Hussein TV, where today we are discussing the topic of self-betterment. My name is Sister Sayyada Mehdia, and I'm joined by Sister Dua. Sister, assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you once again for joining us, and inshallah we can learn from your wisdom, from your advice, because the topic of self-betterment is important to all of us. So I just want to start off by a Quranic ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran in Surah 13 verse 11 has said, "Verily Allah will never change the condition of people until they change it themselves." Now we are living in a very fast-paced society. There's a lot of influences around us, but we ultimately know that the teachings that we get from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam are the best of teachers. So we need to strive to make ourselves better and live each day in a way where we can better ourselves. So to start off today's topic of conversation, sister, many narrations tell us that no 2 days should ever be the same, and we should always work on self-betterment. We should always work on improving one day to the next. So let's start off our topic of conversation today by looking at this, and if you could please shed some light on this.
You know, this narration is narrated from Imam Ali alayhi salam and Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. So Imam Ali alayhi salam says, "من اعتدل يومه فهو مغبون ومن كان غداة يومه شرهما فهو محروم." Imam Ali says that if two of your days are similar, then you're not smart enough. You're not using your intellect. You're not wise. And it doesn't need to mean today and yesterday. It could mean today and 5 years ago, today and 6 weeks ago, today and 7 years ago. If both of these days are the same, so you're not smart enough, you're not using your intellect. And then he says, if your yesterday was a lot better than your today, then you are mahroom. It means deprived. And we all know that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees us doing a sin or something, he takes away the ni'mah, he deprives us from the good. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam says the same thing, but he adds to it. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam says, "Man istawa yawma فهو مغبون." If two of your days are similar, then you are not smart enough, you are not using your intellect, you're not wise enough. And then the Imam here says, وَمَنْ كَانَ غَدَاةَ يَوْمِهِ شَرَّهُمَا. If your yesterday was a lot better than your today, فَهُوَ مَلْعُونَ. You're cursed. Now, the word deprived and cursed really mean the same thing, because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curses you, what does he do? He deprives you from the good. Then the Imam adds to this, and he says, فمن لم يجد الزيادة في نفسه فهو إلى النقصان ومن كان إلى النقصان فالموت خير له من الحياة. The Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam says, whoever does not look to self-better himself, then he's going backwards, he's to the minus. And whoever goes backwards or to minus, then death is a lot better than you living. Because why? أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه. We're here in this life to worship Allah, to succeed, to learn, to always self-better ourselves. If we don't do that, then what's the point of living? Because this is the whole meaning of our life, to always self-better ourselves and to learn and to, we're always learning it in every day in our lives. So the Imam here says that if your yesterday was a lot better than who you are today, then you're not smart. You're not using your intellect. You're not wise. We don't want to say you're dumb or you're not wise. And then the Imam here says, you're either cursed, mal'oon, or mahroom, you're deprived. So if your yesterday was a lot better, because sometimes you see people, they were a lot better than who they are today, whether it's their career, their worship, personality. And that's why the Imam here adds to it and says that whoever does not look to self-better themselves, then they're going minus. Because if you don't work on yourself, you're staying at one pace. So you always need to improve. And the whole reason of this hadith is that Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam, they want us to succeed. They want us to learn. They want us to achieve. They want us to reach the highest levels of whether it's education, whether it's knowledge, whether it's ilm, whether it's everything.
SubhanAllah, I really liked the examples that you gave from Imam Ali and Imam Kadhim alayhi salam, where you've said that if your 2 days are the same, and if your yesterday was better than your today, you're either cursed or deprived. And it's an eye-opener, because we go through the motions of life every day, and we often don't stop to think, what have we done today? What have we achieved today? Have we hurt anyone's feelings? Have we thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Have we done istighfar? Have we reached the greatest potential that we can for ourselves? Ultimately, the Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam are teachers, but we need to strive daily to get to the level that we can attain, inshallah. Now, if we look at self-betterment, how do we try, in this context, how do we try and achieve self-betterment? How do we try and make ourselves better daily, every single day? Please shed some light on this, sister.
You know, when it comes to if your 2 days are the same, it doesn't have to mean like what you do today and tomorrow. It could be whether it's in worship. Because is your salah the same salah that it was 10 years ago? Is your ibadah worship the same worship that it was yesterday when you were 9 years old or when you were 15 years old? Because a lot of people, you know, when they begin to learn how to pray, whether they're 9 or 15, their salah till they're 40 or 50 is the same. Nothing different. They haven't improved. It could mean in worship, istawa ya umma. Is it the same? Are you the same in worship? A lot of people assume, you know, when we do dua kumel, dua nudba, we pray salat al-layl, we do our obligatory salah, we feel like we made it. We feel like that's it. We made it. You know, I do dua kumel, I do dua nudba, I pray salat al-layl, I pray my obligatory salah, I do ziyarah. I made it in worship. But if we bring all this a'mal and we put it in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the scale, on the mizan, it's very shameful that we realize we've given nothing to Allah in terms of worship. So is our worship the same worship in whether it's fasting, whether it's salah, whether it's ibadah, the same worship that it was? And there's a lot of people that know they're yesterday, they're 5 years ago, they're 6 years ago, they were a lot better than they're today. They're today, maybe you see them, they're deprived, they're cursed, they don't have anything. They stopped praying, you know, they stopped supplicating, they stopped these amal. If it's that, go back and, you know, fold your papers, fix them up. There's something that you've done that Allah deprived you from this grace, this ni'mah that He has given you. So it could be in terms of worship. I want to say the story about, you know, 100 years ago, there was no sweet water. The water that we drink today, it wasn't like the water 100 years ago. When they used to get water out from the well, it was like so salty. So what they had to do is they had to put a lot of dates in the well so it can be sweet. So one man in the Arabian desert, you know, he was walking and he wanted water and he found a well. So he put his bucket and he tasted the water and it was so sweet. It was so good. And he was like, I'm going to take a bucket of water and give it to the king, you know, the king in that area. And that king is going to be so proud of me. So imagine he was holding that bucket of water. He didn't want to trip in the desert so that water doesn't fall. And he was so careful with it. And he was so proud of bringing a sweet bucket of water to the king. When he arrived to the palace, the guards let him in. What do you have? I'm so proud of myself. The king is going to be so happy. This is sweet water. Imagine, it wasn't available. So when he got to the king said to the guards, take him to the ocean or the river that I have. And it was sweet water. When he arrived there, he was so shy. Like, oh my God, I was so proud of myself that I got. And this is how it is when we're so proud of ourselves that, you know, we're worshiping Allah, we're doing a'mal, we're doing salat al-layl, we're doing, you know, ziyarat, we are doing, you know, praying so much or, you know, all these ziyaras. And we're so proud. But when we place them in the mizan in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are we going to be proud or are we going to be shy and embarrassed? And this is why the Imam says, Man istawa yawma, because why are we here in this world? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We're here to worship. Is our worship, whether it's you're fasting in Shahr Ramadan, is it the same fasting that it was yesterday, 10 years ago, 6 years ago, or is it better? You know, is your salah the same salah that it was when you were mukallaf, when you first began to pray? Or is it worse? You know, we need to improve in that as well. Now, when it comes to ilm, knowledge, al-ilm nur, ilm is nur. It never ends, you know, whether it's academically or, you know, Islamically. And I kind of feel like you need both of them nowadays. A lot of people, they reach the highest level of education in academically and they feel like that's it, they made it. But wait, what have you learned and educated yourself Islamically? Yes. Both are equal. And there's a lot of people that, they reach high level of knowledge in Islam, but they know nothing academically. They're both needed equally. So this is what it means. Man istawa yawma. Is your knowledge in Islam or in, education in one limit, or have you improved yourself? Because you need to improve. You can't stay the same person. So according to that as well, there's a lot of people know, couple of years before, they were very well educated. They, used to learn and study, and now they just stopped. Was your yesterday better than your today? You're either cursed or deprived. So you need to work on yourself. You need to learn. And you don't need to always, go to school. Yes, it's important sometimes, to get to college, to get to university. But sometimes learning academically, you can learn from books. You can read. You can learn today on internet and get certificates and, reach so much information and reach higher levels of education through online learning. So education never stops, whether it's, Islamically or academically, and both are equal, and you need to learn them. You need to know the halal, the haram. Today is very shameful. You see, people that reach their PhD levels, they reach their masters, but they know nothing about fiqh. They know nothing about tahara and najasa. They know nothing about haram. They know nothing. And it's very important to learn both of these equally, because that's ilm. So that's in the case of education and knowledge. Then you have in the case of work, career. I mean, a lot of people, when they have a job, they stay at one pace. No, ask for promotion, do something better, get another certificate, apply to a better job. A lot of people, they work in a supermarket, in a store, and they stay that for 10, 20, 15 years. No, be that person. Ahlul Bayt and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to achieve. Open up your own supermarket. There's nothing wrong with it to work for a couple of years. Now it's your time to open up yourself, It's your time to open up another business. A lot of people are like, okay, I have a simple life. I wake up, I eat, I go to work, I come back, that's it. No, is that your day every day? You need to have goals. You need to achieve. You need to become better in the field of knowledge, in the field of education, in the field of work, and then in the field of worship. And then there's something else that we don't think of. And that's when it comes to, for example, personality. A lot of people say, this is me. I'm not going to change myself. This is my personality. No, you need to work on your personality. A lot of people say, oh yeah, but this is my akhlaq. I won't change it. No, you need to change it. A lot of people say, oh yeah, but I don't endure a lot of things. I have zero tolerance. You need to have tolerance. A lot of people are proud of this personality. Man istawa yawma, in the terms of your personality, is it the same? And then there's a lot of people, no, they were better before, but then they changed to the worse, So it can mean, this hadith can mean in many things. It doesn't only have to mean in what you do today in your life. It can mean your personality. Are you having akhlaq morals? Then you need to change. Are you having patience? Then you need to change. You need to work on these. You need to become a better person. Because the Imam here says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ زِيَادَةَ فِي نَفْسِهِ. If you don't look to improve yourself, فهو إلى النقصان. So you have to improve yourself even in your terms of personality, akhlaq, morals. You need to change them. You need to jot down notes of the things that you need to improve on. Don't be like, okay, everyone's complaining because I'm very rude and I don't want to change it because this is me. They have to get used to it. No, you need to change. You need to improve. You need to become nicer. You need to have akhlaq. You need to learn the normal levels of akhlaq. You need to improve on that. So in terms of personality, are you the same person? Then you're maghboon, you're deprived, you're cursed, you're not using your brain, you're not using your intellect. So yeah, in all these terms, we need to always achieve, always look for the best in terms of worship, which is so important. In the terms of education is also important. Terms of career, you don't want to stay at one career for the rest of your life. You always want to reach higher levels and, get more income and there's nothing wrong with it to have money, because you need money to help the poor, to open up charities, to do things, to give to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So never look at it as like, I want to just be in one pace. No, you need to improve in terms of work. And then lastly, of course, your personality, your akhlaq. Yeah.
You've given so much insight and so much knowledge. I particularly liked how you said that if we don't look at bettering ourselves from day to day or year to year, we're doing an injustice to ourselves. There's a beautiful hadith, I believe it's by Imam Ali alayhi salam, who has said that if time could speak, it would surely mock us, which is very important for the topic that we're discussing today. And you've said that, self-betterment takes up different types of classifications. Self-betterment for namaz. Are we praying the same namaz that we did 10 years ago? Self-betterment for fasting as well. For example, you know, when you start fasting, when you become baligh, you start fasting, you're fasting mainly, you know, refraining from food and water at that age. But as you get older and you appreciate the beauty of fasting and the importance of fasting, you should then start to fast with your tongue, your eyes, your ears. Mm-hmm. And then you reach the ultimate stage of fasting with your intellect, with your aql, with your brain. So there's those different stages of fasting as well. And you spoke about personality and how important it is to make sure that your akhlaq, your characteristics, because we also know that the akhlaq that you possess, the mannerism, that the way that you speak to people, the way that you walk on this earth with humbleness, rather than walking on this earth with pride, characteristics and manners is going to be one of the greatest, weightiest ibadah on the day of resurrection on the scales. Mm-hmm. So all those things are really important. And you gave the beautiful story of the dates and the sweet water, and how the king already had that in the ocean. And it reminds me of how when, for example, on Qadr nights, and it's almost like a checklist. You want to get this ziyarah done, this namaz, this amal. But do we actually stop to ponder and think, what is it that we're reciting? What is it that we're doing? And sometimes the little that is presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worth far more than the greatness of the checklist that we've sent. So those are beautiful examples that you've given, sister. Now, if we look at ourselves, particularly women in the West, in the society that we're living in today, we often have very busy lives. We multitask. We're not just mothers. We're teachers. We have jobs. We have other commitments in the community. And we often forget to take time out for ourselves. How is it very important, first of all, that we should do this, we should take time out for ourselves, and how can we make sure that in our busy lives, in our busy schedule, we instill that time a little bit away from everyone to have that time for ourselves?
You know, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Like, a lot of people can carry a big basket. Some people can carry a medium-sized basket. Other people can carry a very small basket. A lot of people can do a lot of things and multitask. A lot of people can't multitask, or maybe a little bit. A lot of people can't a lot. You know, if you are a mother who is very busy and, you know, you have children and you're raising your children, the best thing a woman needs to know, especially the mother today, that if you raise your children in the right direction, that's ibadah, that's worship, that's jihad itself. And that itself is all what she needs to do. Because as much as you do worship for yourself and success for yourself, and then you look around and you feel like you created a generation that does not know how to live alone, does not know the right from the wrong, does not know the halal from the haram, then you messed up a lot. You know, sometimes it's not only nafsi, sometimes it's like as a mother, especially because you're raising the children. Because if it wasn't for the mother, these children are not going to be raised properly. They need the mother to, you know, guide them. And, you know, so if you are a mother and you're raising children, then you've done enough, you know. Don't overwhelm yourself and, you know, take off your plate, you know, as long as you're teaching them the salah, the ibadah, you're raising them well. And then if you can multitask, you know, after doing all those house chores, because it's a lot, you know, they say house chores never ends. Raising your children, teaching them, guiding them, they take all your energy and all your time that by the end of the day, when you want to pray, you feel like you don't even have energy for salah. You don't even have energy, you know, for anything else to improve on something else. So if you can add, you know, one thing to improve on your schedule along with what you're going with, along with, you know, as you said today, women are working outside the house and inside the house, and they have so much that sometimes they don't even have time to worship, or they don't even have time to, you know, improve in other areas of their lives. Maybe we can make it a target, like, you know, once a month, choose something that we need to work on, whether it's worship. Okay, we'll either do it together, or I won't focus on much. I'll just add that to my schedule that, okay, I'm going to improve my salah. After, you know, you do your house chores or you do everything, okay, I'm going to improve it. I'm going to think of each word that I'm saying in my salah. You know, when I say Bismillah Rahman Rahim, I need to think of each word I'm saying. I don't want to just pray it and think of what I have on the stove, or, you know, my child needs me later. So maybe add that in our schedule. Maybe next month improve in the fields of akhlaq, maybe in the fields of ta'amul, in the fields of things that you can't endure in life. Oh, maybe the other month, okay, I'm going to focus on my job only. So I'll have my kids, I'll have my chores, but then I'll work on improving myself in my career, I'll improve myself in, you know, knowledge, education, whatever it is. If we can multitask as much as we can hold. You know, there's a lot of people, when they look at others, they say, oh, if I were you, I would do this, and that. But you're not that person. You're not in their shoes. You don't know what they're going through. Stop expecting so much from others. Because a lot of people can't hold as much as they can hold, you know? Maybe you can hold a lot, then you do it yourself. So the best thing a woman needs to know, especially if she's a wife serving her husband, that's ibadah. Because it's not really wajib, but when you do it, it's ibadah. Serving your children, raising them in the right direction. Because as much as we work on ourselves and then we turn around and we see like the children that we created today that have mental illness problems, depressions, anxiety, we didn't know how to raise them, we'll feel like we didn't do nothing. So if we took care of our children and raised them as a mother, one is ibadah, one is improving, and you get to improve yourself with them. And that's the good thing about being a mother, is that when you improve your children, you're improving yourself with them, you're learning with them. So yeah, if we can multitask, we can multitask, and as much as we can hold.
I really liked what you said, that if we improve our children, we can improve ourselves as well. Because ultimately we're all on a journey, we're learning. And it's refreshing to actually hear as well that, you know, we forget sometimes as mothers, we want to, like you said, we want to take on more than we can actually handle. But just being in the home, looking after the home, making sure that the children are happy, making sure that they're educated, making sure that they're both in, you know, in secular and religious studies. This is also a huge jihad and an ibadah as well. And as women, we often forget this. We compare ourselves to the other woman who may be working, but we forget that the biggest job that we have is actually to raise our children, because ultimately they are the next generation and they are the ones who are going to continue spreading the message of Islam. So that is probably the biggest jihad.
It is.
And I particularly like the way that you said that use, you know, 1 month to better, for example, your namaz. The next month to better, for example, your patience, working on your patience, biting your tongue. The next month for your akhlaq, your mannerism. Take it in small bite-sized chunks rather than working on everything. Do it in a manageable amount that you can actually handle. So these are just really beautiful examples that you've given, sister, so thank you. Now, if we look at muhasaba and muraqaba, muhasaba, evaluating yourself, and muraqaba, being mindful of your daily actions. These go hand in hand together. Why are they so important to do, sister?
You know, حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا زنوها قبل أن توزنوا. You know, ليس منا من لم يحاسب نفسه في كل يوم. This narration is narrated from 4 of our imams. He is not from us who does not evaluate himself every night. It's very sad that when you stand, you know, on the day of judgment, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, Imam Ali comes and says, no, you're not our follower. Imam Sadiq comes and says, no, you're not our follower. Imam Rida comes and says, you're not our follower. It's very shameful, because we have to look at it that we're not from them, we're not their followers if we don't evaluate ourselves every night. And this narration, Imam Ali alayhi salam narrated it, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam al-Rida, and Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يُحَاسِبْ نَفْسَهُ فِي كُلِّ يَوْمٍ. He is not from us who does not monitor, you know, and evaluate himself every night. Why? It's because sometimes we're on one path. We don't know what we're doing is right or wrong. Sometimes we look at ourselves and say, I didn't do anything wrong. And no one knows us, you know, but ourselves. For example, when you go to school, you get a grade, the teacher knows this is right, this is wrong, and they will tell you. Because if they don't give you an X and tell you this is wrong, you'll do it for the rest of your life. So when you get an X and you know that this is wrong, you won't do it anymore. But ourselves, no one knows the steps of what we do but ourselves. And that's why it's left upon us to do muhasaba, not others. Because sometimes others will see things in you that, you know, because they don't like you. But no, it's you to do it yourself. You to look at yourself inside and say, What did I do today? Did I do something good? Did I do wrong? What am I doing haram? Sometimes we spend 10 years of our lives, 20 years of our life doing the same haram over and over again because we're so used to it that it's not even haram. We're so used to it that it's normal. Like gossip is one of them. We're used to it as this is something normal. Oh, do you know this person? They did this. Oh, it's normal to us. But if we actually evaluate ourselves from here, we know which path we're taking. And this is why Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu salam say, Laysa minna, they're not from us, those who don't evaluate yourselves. And when you evaluate yourself, you monitor it the next day. You look at yourself the next day. You want to see, did you do something haram? Did you do something good? There was a Sayyid, a very great scholar. And how they usually do that when you really want a high level of spirituality, you go vegan. So you don't eat meat, you don't eat dairy products. And, it helps you see things that, your level of spirituality, because what you eat really affects your spirituality.
Yes.
So one day there was this Sayyid that he wanted to do it, but his uncle was a very great scholar. His name was Sayyid Muhammad al-Fisharaki. He looked at him and he said, that thing that you want to do by going vegan today, I'll teach you something better. How'd you know? How'd you know that I was planning to go vegan and, to improve my level of spirituality? He's like, I know, because I can see the unseen. But I'm going to tell you to do something better. And he said, what is it? He said, do muhasaba. Like, what's that? He's like, muhasaba, because these sins, they cover up our eyes, our spirituality, that we don't get to see. Our spirit becomes controlled by these sins. So he says, when you do muhasaba for 40 nights, instead of going vegan for 40 nights, do muhasaba for 40 nights and hold the sabha from day 1 to the 40th day. Everything that you did, a sin, put down a sabha. For example, I'll give you an example from me. You gossiped, one beat down. You listened to music, another beat down. You disrespected your parents, maybe 10 beats down. You shaked hands with someone who's non-mahram, another beat down. You swore, another beat down. All these is muhasaba, but you're counting them down on your sabha. If you reach, the Sayyid says, if you reach the 40th day and you couldn't think of a sin, you couldn't think of a sin that you've done or a beat to go down, then that's where you reached a high level of spirituality. So if from day 1 to day 4, you decreased your sins, because when you do muhasaba, the next day, you're doing muraqaba, you're monitoring yourself. Okay, I'm not going to do this. This is haram. No, this is haram. Oh, I wanted to say something, but this is haram. I wanted to listen. Okay, no, this is haram. So you're monitoring yourself. He said, if from day 1 to day 40, you decreased all your sins and you couldn't think of a sin, then you reached a high level of spirituality. Because when we have sins, it's controlled by our spirituality, because sins, they cover us from everything, from seeing the unseen, from having a good relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is an advice that he gave him. And this is why Ahlul Bayt say, do muhasaba, because when you do it, you get to know what you're doing from sins. I'll give you an example. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Rasulullah, when he used to go to the battle, he would leave a couple of men to guide Medina. Because of course, the women that are there, they need a man, they need help. All the men are gone. He can't leave Medina open with no men. So one man that Rasulullah left him, and a couple of men, what he would do, he stand behind the doors and, ask the woman for shopping, grocery. What do you need today? And back in the days, there's always curtains. So there was a door, but they'd leave it open, and maybe due to the heat or whatever, so they'd leave it open and there's a curtain. So that man that Rasulullah left behind came to a woman and told her, what do you need? Shopping, grocery. So she was telling him behind the curtain, but what happened is the curtain slipped open and he saw her. So he grabbed her hand. See the shaitan? He was a good person, but the shaitan comes. And this is why you need to do muhasaba and muraqaba, so you monitor yourself, so you don't do haram. She screamed, anar, anar, like hell. When she screamed that, she was strong enough that he went back to his reality. And he also realized what he was doing was haram. So he also screamed, anar, anar. He was ashamed of himself and he left Medina. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came back, he asked about this man. Where is he? They were like, oh, this is what happened and he left Medina. Call him. I want to speak to him. Imagine how shameful he was when he came to Rasulullah. This is Rasulullah. Imagine standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah told him, Alhaakum, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhaakum al-takathur, hatta zirtum al-maqabir. كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم. If we realize every action we do, what we're really doing, we will see hell, fire, Jahannam in front of us. And this is why we need to do Muhasaba and Muraqabah. This man was a good man. He was very good. If he wasn't good, Rasulullah wouldn't leave him in Medina to guide, right? But what happens is shaitan is strong, and sometimes we don't realize what we do is haram. What we realize what we do is, guiding us to hell and fire and Jahannam. So this is why it's important to actually, before we sleep every night, take 5 minutes, just sit down maybe on your phone or maybe like in our subha and like put down how many sins what did we do today? Because sometimes we're only at home, we're doing nothing, but it could be small sins that we don't realize that they're sin. And that's why it's important.
SubhanAllah, again, you've given us such important information. And I particularly liked what you said, where you said 4 Imams have said that if we don't evaluate ourselves, we are as if we're not true believers on the Day of Judgment. So that's a real eye-opener, I think, to myself first of all. And then you went on to say that we know that evaluating yourself is very important, and a simple task of, before we sleep at night, we have into our habits, inshallah, where we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything. We recite Ayatul Kursi before we sleep, but we forget to evaluate ourselves. What did we do wrong in our day? And the analogy of the 40 days with the tasbih, and at the end of on the last day, you should have no more beads moved, which means that you have evaluated yourself, you've realized what you've done wrong, and then you've rectified it the next day. So ultimately, after the 40 days, you have, inshallah, reached a higher level of spirituality and ultimately grown closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think I will use that first of all in my life as well. So in order to help myself and better myself as well, inshallah. Now, if we look at the topic of spirituality, and ultimately everything that we do in our lives is to gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to thank Him. For example, by praying namaz on time, or istighfar, reciting the Holy Quran daily. These are just few examples of how we can improve our spirituality. What other examples are there, sister, if you could shed some light on this, please?
We human beings are created from a handful of soil and a blow from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we became who we are today, human beings. Shaitan, they're created from fire, from Nar Jahannam, but we are created from that handful of soil and that blow from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in life, we're limited to things that are materialistic, that are made from this world, because we are made from this world. So we're limited to time. We cannot change the time. We cannot kill time. We're limited to the place. For example, if I want to be in Iraq right now, it takes me time, and I have to take something that can take me there. It's either my legs, or it's either the boat, or it's either the train or a plane, or it has to be something materialistic from this world, because we're limited to that. Yes. But our soul, our spirit is not limited to this world. So when we work on the levels of spirituality, we will reach a high level that we will not be limited to any of these. And I'll give you an example. A man who was named Jabir, and he was Jabir al-Ju'fi. He has the same status as Salman al-Muhammadi has to Rasulullah. Salmanun minna Ahlul Bayt. Salman is from us. Rasulullah says about Salman, his companion. Jabir al-Ju'fi, he has the same status to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. He was in Kufa, and he was giving a speech, and a man narrates, says that I went to his speech in Kufa, and as soon as Jabir al-Ju'fi glanced at me and looked at me, he finished his speech and he came to me. And he said to me, do you want to go visit Imam al-Sadiq in Medina? And I said, sure, why not? So he took my hand and we left. They were in Kufa. They left, they walked until they reached a place where there's no one, no human beings around. And then he told me, close your eyes. Jabir told that man, close your eyes. He closed his eyes. Open it now. He opened it. They were in Medina in front of the door of Imam al-Sadiq. He said, I went to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. I sat down, I spoke to the Imam, we had good time. The Imam looked at me and said, would you like to go back to Kufa? And I said, yes, ya ibn Rasulullah. Sure, ya ibn Rasulullah. He said, close your eyes. I closed my eyes. He said, سمعت الكاف في المدينة والنون في الكوفة. I heard kun, be, and I heard the kaf in Medina and the noon in Kufa. And now a lot of people are going to make fun of it and say this is not true. I'll bring you a holy verse from the Holy Quran. Asif ibn Burkhiyah. Who is Asif ibn Burkhiyah? He's not even an imam. He's not even a nabi. He's a normal human being. In Surah Al-Nahl, verse 40, وَقَالَ الَّذِي لَهُ عِلْمٌ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ أَنَا آتِيكَ بِهِ قبل أن يرتد إليك طرفك فلما رآه. That man Asif ibn Burkhiyah was speaking to the Prophet Sulaiman, and he was telling him, I will bring you the Arsh al-Azim, the queen's throne, with a blink of an eye. When he said that, Sulaiman saw it in front of him. So it has to do with your spirituality, because our spirit is not controlled by the limitations of life. And this is a holy verse from the Holy Quran. And a lot of our scholars, they reached levels of spirituality, one, no sins. And of course, by doing Muhasaba and Muraqaba, you have 0 sins. Because what controls our spirituality is the sins that we have. It gets controlled by everything in this world. But when your spirit is so high that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا زَالَ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبْ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ حَتَّى أَحُبُّهُ فإذا أحببته كنت سمعه الذي يسمع به وعينه الذي يرى به ويده التي يبطش بها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this narration that if my servant gets closer to me with nawafil is basically what you pray between each salah, and of course no sins and nawafil. If they get closer to me in worship and nawafil, I will become the eye that they see with, and the hands that they walk, they hit with, and the leg that they walk with. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you, meaning that you won't be limited to any of these things. And many of our scholars throughout history, which I won't mention names because there's several, that they used to have a very high level of spirituality, like Asif ibn Burkhiyah, that they would not be limited to time and place. And they would close their eyes, they're in another place, and they would see the unknown, the hidden. Why? It's because they worked on the spirit, the soul. This soul that there's no sins. They don't even think of haram. They don't even say haram. They don't even do haram. Of course, with muhasaba and muraqaba, and they have this connection, this worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the best level of spirituality that anyone can reach. And I wish one day we can all reach that level of spirituality, is where we're not limited to this world. This is a spirit, it's a soul.
I really enjoyed the analogy that you said that if, for example, we want to get from place A to place B, we are limited by transportation, we are limited by our health, we are limited by our money. But in order to improve our spirituality, we're not limited. If we evaluate ourselves daily, and then upon that evaluation, we work upon it, ultimately we can improve our spirituality to a level where you gave examples of the companions. They're not the Ahlul Bayt alayhum assalam. They're human beings like us. But they got their level to the point where you said that the eyes are, they're seeing what Imam sees. Their hands, their feet. These are just really beautiful examples, sister. Now, we've spoken about spirituality, and we know how important it is to improve our spirituality to ultimately our journeys to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in the society that we live in this very fast-paced commercial society that we're living in, is it equally important to be mindful of our mental and our physical well-being as well as our spirituality?
I kind of see that, your mental health, your illness, whatever it is, that mental thoughts, it's something that you can't see. And spirit is something you can't see.
Yes.
And they're linked together, because science today, they can't find the cure to depression and mental illness. And the reason why, you have a cardiac disease, they can touch your heart, they can cure it, with medication or whatever it is. You have any illness, they can cure it. But when it comes to mental health, they always tell you, go do some meditation. And meditation is worship. It's because something you can't see, your thoughts, and then your soul is that spirit that you can control. But you can control your thoughts by your spirit. Why? Let's look at mental health illness. What does it come from? Either a trauma, childhood trauma, a divorce, relationship issues, money, financial issues, everything materialistic to this world. But if you control your spirit by doing no sins, getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, realizing this world is nothing, you'll never fall through depression. I mean, we all fall through depression once in our life. But if we work on the spirit, we're controlling our thoughts. Because what are we thinking of now? We left this world. We ignored this world. We don't care about this world. All we care about is the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not doing haram, why we're here. Okay, so if you're stuck in this world, you're not happy, but I'm here for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. There's no time. I'm going to rush and work on my akhirah. I'm going to rush to do good deeds. I'm going to rush. You become undepressed. If you're in a relationship problem and you're stuck and you feel like, I'm so depressed, you won't even get depressed anymore from that relationship issue. Why? It's because you know that I'm only with this person for a couple of years. So might as well I work on myself and stop crying over something I'm not happy with. Let's say, for example, you lost a loved one and you're in trauma and you're in depression. It's okay to fall through trauma and depression and feel sad. But then when you work on your spirituality to the level that you see, wait, why am I here in this world? It's temporary. The loved one that I missed, I will meet them later. But I need to work on the level of my spirituality. I need to work on my ibadah, my worship. I have no time. There's no time left, I need to work and run and present. And then you no longer feel like you're depressed. Your thoughts, you stop them from being depressed. So I kind of feel like if you work on your level of spirituality, you're no longer depressed from anything you're falling through. Even if you lose like 1 million pounds, how depressing would that be? You work and you save that 1 million pounds in a business or elsewhere and you lose it all. But when you're working on your spirituality, you won't get depressed because you look at it and be like, it's the dunya, it's mulku lillah. This is for Allah. I gained it, but okay, you know what? I'm not going to cry over and ruin my life because there's no time. I need to worship. I need to get closer to Allah. I need to work on my akhirah. I need to do other things because there's no time. Time is ticking. And every time time ticks, I'm getting closer to my deathbed. When we look at that, because this is all coming from working on your spirituality, we know why we're in this world, why we have to live, why we have to eat, why we have to live in this life and the reason of it and the good things that we can do, that we can achieve, that we can get to a better akhirah, a better barzakh, a better life, or be ready for the Imam when he comes suddenly, then we're no longer depressed. Everything that we lose that's materialistic is no longer what we're interested in because we're working on our spirituality. And especially you can't catch your thoughts. So here, guess what? Your spirit controlled these thoughts. Your spirit removed these depressions. So nothing depresses you at the end of the day, no matter what illness you're going through. Because, when you ask a depressed person or someone who has mental illness, why are you depressed? They don't even know because they're trapped through their thoughts that they can't even remember what's making them sad, what's making them unconfident. But when you connect yourself with Allah, Allah will give you the confidence. Allah will make you, exceed these limitations in life. And then you'll feel like nothing is worth but my reputation with God, and nothing is worth but my relationship with God. And this time is so temporary that I'm going to make the most out of it. Whether you're in a relationship problem, whether you're having financial issues, whether you're having, issues with your children, whatever the issue is in life, you feel like, okay, I'm going to make the most out of it because I'm going to prepare for my next world. So that's when I feel like if you work on your spirituality, you aced mental illness. You found the cure for it.
SubhanAllah. I think it's very, very important the way that you said that time is running out. We keep on hearing again and again, time is of the essence, time. And we know that this life is very transient, but we forget that we're working for the akhirah. And like you said, time is running out. And who are we gaining closer to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In that way, we're improving our spirituality. And in essence, we are working for the reappearance of our awaited Imam. We are working for him. We want to be able to serve him and do his labbaik when he comes. Yeah. We want to get to that level where everything is beautiful. Like Sayyada Zainab said, I saw nothing but beauty. So improving that spirituality, being thankful to Allah in the good times and the bad times, will ultimately allow us to gain closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ultimately allow us to become better people. And inshallah, you know, any anxiety or whatever that we're feeling inside, if we feel that, you know, there is only Allah, Allah is our cure, we talk to Him, we open up to Him, inshallah that will help us all. And I speak for myself first, that inshallah we can gain closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and inshallah we can better ourselves. Inshallah. Thank you so much, sister. Once again, you've really given us such an insight into your wisdom. And it's a lesson for me first on how to improve myself, to evaluate myself, and to be mindful of the actions that I'm doing in my daily life. And ultimately, we want to learn from the teachings of our beloved Ahlul Bayt alayhim assalam. But we have come to the end of our episode today. Thank you so much, sister. And inshallah, you'll join us once again. But for today, that is the end of our episode. Thank you so much, viewers, once again for watching. We pray for the shifa of all the marid around the world. And we pray for the eternal safety and quick reappearance of our beloved Imam Zamana alayhi salam. Until next time, dear viewers, thank you for watching. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.